With another evening of budget hearings. These are joint meetings for the Board of Finance and the Town Council. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, first up this evening is public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to comment at this time? Don't be shy. Then we don't, I don't see any. Then we will close public comment and move on to social services. Item 46. Thank you, Kevin. You're welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have met recently, the town council and I appreciate all of your time.
Page 141.
Oh. I really don't have any significant changes to the budget. I could give you an update on department activities, but I know you've got a killer agenda tonight, so I'm here to answer any questions or otherwise. Really, the budget is going in unchanged.
And for the council, the finance department will make some of those adjustments that were discussed at the last meeting, so. Which were an increase in hours and compensation for their admin assistant and their counselor,
Full-time
full-time
social
worker.
worker.
So I'll get that to you when finance gets sent it to me. But any other, yeah?
I just want to say your department's always done a stellar job, particularly in recent years with the hardships that many of the families have faced in this town, with the heating season being so brutal this year and all that. I just want to thank you and your staff for the work you do.
Thank you.
Any other,
It's good to hear at budget time.
It is.
yes.
We totally appreciate the support we have. And the higher ups of the town appreciate it.
Okay, well, if we don't have any questions, you have a good time.
Thank you. Would you all please pray that JFK is up and running at early morning tomorrow?
Where's she going? Oh,
Thank
she's
you.
going somewhere warmer than
Yeah,
that.
I don't dare tell you. You might not like me anymore.
Wait, come back, let's talk about the budget. Madam Mayor?
Yes, I know. She'll bring you pictures. So the next item is the New Milford ambulance, which is page 287 and 309.
I can start with that? Okay. Good evening. My name is Donna Hesby. I'm president of the Milford Community Ambulance. Our organization's been around since 1929. We are a nonprofit volunteer organization. We did 2,017 calls last year, which is approximately 5.5 calls a day. That's a 20% increase since 10 years ago. Approximately a year and a half ago, we became an ALS service, that means advanced life, meaning we have a medic available either on our rig or in the fly car 24/7. A little side note, 25% of our calls are cardiac, heart-related in some way. This year, the Milford Ambulance has to ask the town for an increase in our budget. We have not asked for an increase in many years. In 2007, we had an annual budget of $122,700. The following year, we were asked to take a 10% cut. We did. We went down to $110,430 to be exact. Following year, we were asked to take another cut. We did. We went down to 104. And again, the following year, we did it also. We got down to 99,000. We've stayed at that budget number since 2011. This year, our expenses have skyrocketed and we need some help. We are a town-owned building. that New Milford Ambulance pays for the principal and interest on the building to the town to the tune of $227,000. We also pay all the expenses that go with the building, and that would be trash, snow plowing, lawns, alarm system, telephones, internet, generator, fuel, maintenance, air conditioning, heating, maintenance, pest control, and the cleaning of the building. This year, we also installed heating cones up on our roof because we had something like 10-foot long icicles, and it's worked out very well. Any repairs on anything in the building or on the building, we pay for ourselves, including all the maintenance contracts and everything. We have billing service fees, purchasing of new equipment. We pay for the paid staff during the day, which is 60 hours a week. We have a medic and an EMT, and that's approximately, runs us about $185,000 a year. We have EMT classes, we do fuel shredding, biohazard, accountant, attorney, etc. Our training is also increased. We need to have training now on Narcan, new backboarding protocols, and we even switched our CPR protocols this year. Our training has increased so much so that we're looking into putting it all on an online program so that the people can do it maybe a little bit more easily at home. It's tough trying to fit training in 10 times a year, not with everything we've got to do now. 3 items. Vehicle repair, we have a budget of $3,240. We spent $24,000 last year. Medical supplies, the budget's $7,290. We spent $22,520. And last but not least, there was an amount of $10,000 that's taken directly out of our budget under expenses, the $55,000, and that's for what's called CMed. CMed is a communications service that all towns are required to have. It's for emergency dispatching. It could be used by anybody, fire, you name it, the town can use it. We're required to have it, the town's required to have it. We had the $10,000 taken out of that expense that we have of $55,000, so it kind of gives you an idea that really cut us down $45,000 instantly. This year we asked if that could be a line item in the budget, and we estimate it's going to be about $12,000. It's the fee is calculated by the population of the town. We have no choice; it is what it is. There's different CMed communication centers throughout the whole state. I forget how many, but there's quite a few. But every town needs to be affiliated with one. So we wanted to explain that 10 comes right out of there. We're getting a new ambulance this year. The basic cost is $240,000 for the ambulance itself, okay? We need to put in it a $40,000 LifePak defib, okay? It's an ALS. It's not the little ones we get for $2,000 or $2,400. We need approximately $12,000 in radios, and we need about $20,000 in regular supplies just to set the ambulance up so it can be inspected by the state and that we can get it on the road. Basically, what we're asking for is help with some of our expenses and money from the town for the CMed yearly charge. We also are asking for an increase in our capital that we've had. We've had $32,000 put aside towards a new ambulance every year. It's been forever. I didn't go back to research it exactly, but as far back as I can ever remember, it's been $32,000. This year, the ambulances get used. They get used hard. You know, the stop, start, go, back, forth, all kinds of weather, all kinds of drivers using it. So we're just asking if we can go from 32 to 50 on that. So it's a lot of money. We've always had to add money to it to get it. And this year, like I said, we've got a new one. We're also going for a 4-wheel drive this year. So we hopefully, I'm looking at Larry because Larry knows about that. He needed 4-wheel drive one time. Right, Larry? So our oldest ambulance is a 2007, and what we're doing is we want to replace that, but we're going to keep it for a backup when we have maintenance or repair problems. We've applied to the state for a 3rd ambulance so we can have that, so we don't have any downtime. But that's about it. To kind of give you an idea for some of the changes we asked for in the budget.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you for all that you do. You're very valued in this community, that's for sure. I just had a couple of questions, really.
Sure.
On the vehicle repair, it bumped up quite a bit. Now, the other vehicles that are in your purview, are they likely to need replacing on a regular schedule? How they doing?
Okay, we have the 2007, it's a big GMC. We've had a lot of problems with it. Like I said, they get used and abused. We don't intentionally abuse them, it's just the nature of the beast, what we do. You know, we're always backing up and down driveways, you name it, we gotta go wherever we gotta go. And it's a lot of short, fast driving lots of times, that's not good on me. Our other one is a Chevy, and that's a 2010. We've had some pretty good luck with that one. This year we're switching, we're gonna go back and try Ford again this year. You know, we hope to get the delivery of that probably in July.
Okay, so
It's just tough, it's a lot, there's airbags in them, there's suspension, the tires on the GMC are big truck tires, they're hundreds of dollars, and we need 4 of them when we replace them in the back, so that just gives you an idea right there, that bill. And then, of course, getting them aligned and all that other stuff, it's just unbelievable, the price tag on something simple.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Pete?
Thank you, Mayor. My sentiment's the same as Councilwoman Baldwin's. We appreciate everything that you
Thank
do.
you.
Couple quick questions on the CMed. Is that something that just you, as the ambulance, are gonna use?
It can be used by the whole town. It's a frequency that is a statewide service. In fact, I'm looking, the police are behind me there, and they probably would probably know more than me to explain it. Yes?
I'm gonna defer to communication.
It's something we've always had, and it used to be like a couple $1,000, but now it's just been going up, that's why we made note of it.
And the 12,000, is that for the whole town?
Go ahead.
Basically, the CMed channel is an encrypted channel, and what it's used for is patient info. So when the ambulance calls, they patch the ambulance to the hospital on a total separate channel, so that we don't hear names, dates of birth, medications, and it's basically for all of that high information that we don't want out on our channel, our PD channel, on our fire channel. It's just done on a totally separate channel.
Before, we used to use the police, and we used to do our patching, as we referred to it. And I mean, anybody who had a scanner could hear everything we were talking about, and they just knew we were at 22 Smith Road, and they know who lived there, and they knew every personal detail about them. But it's always been around, and it's also, the hospitals all have them, that if we, for whatever reason, there's some kind of a huge, major incident in the state, and we could very well be diverted to go to Yale, go to all different, we can talk to them. It allows us to talk to them. That's probably the most important thing.
And we've always had this frequency?
We've always had it.
It's
We've
just-
always had it. It's always with a little teeny thing. It was just kind of, we just took it out of our budget, no big deal. But last year, we realized it was $10,000 taken out of the 55 we had. We were like, wait a minute. So
Did it
that's
go
why.
up that one time, or just,
It's slowly going up
and you
with
just
everything
caught it
else.
this time for the 12? So basically, it's just been going up?
Yeah, it's been in there. We were like a couple thousand, okay, we
It's
just
actually
left it.
more.
But now, after last year being 10, this year we're estimating 12. We're like, we better put it out there so you kind of have a separate item.
And then on the new vehicle,
Mhm.
how did you come up with the process of buying a Ford versus another?
We used to have Ford years ago. We used to have a lot of problems with transmissions. It was horrendous. So we switched off. We went over to the GMC. We tried a Chevy. And right now, because we want a 4-wheel drive, it automatically brought us down to, we had a choice between a Dodge or a Ford. And the Dodge is kind of new on the scene, and we didn't want to be the guinea pig, kind of trying it out and seeing what the problems were. So we went to a Ford. Ford is used probably by the majority of commercial and the town EMS organizations.
And keeping the additional vehicle, as you stated before, that's why you're looking at as Councilman Balder was saying, that's why you're looking at an incremental increase in the repair, just because you're adding additional.
Well, also, that's going to be another item too. We're going to have 3. And I mean, they're unbelievable when you need a repair on. Just the other day, they picked up an elderly gentleman, and they put the window down. They were backing up, went to put the window back up, and it was snowing, and the window didn't go back up. So it was a long, cold ride for that driver to go to Danbury Hospital, and then to go from Danbury Hospital up here. You know, he rode like that so he didn't get frostbite on his ear.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Other questions for the ambulance at this time? And just a reminder, if you guys think of questions later for our department, we're happy to go ahead and text us or call us, and we'll get a hold of them and send them out to everybody. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Next up is Gailersville. So there's the,
Good evening, I'm Chief David Williamson from the Gainesville Fire Department. We have about 38 active members, not counting junior members. We have a junior program, ages 14 to 18. We have about 8 juniors in that program right now. We send away to a Connecticut Fire Academy school every summer, get them more interested in it and get them up to date and keep their interest in it so that when they become young adults, that they keep the volunteer going and we can kind of refresh our ranks. If anybody has any questions on the budget, please feel free to.
anyone have any questions for Gailersville?
How are you making out with the pager replacement? What's that?
When we had met, Mayor, we said that we might take that out of the budget and grab it from another
The
source.
radio account, the account.
Yes, the radio
Yes.
account.
Yes,
Okay,
that's what Ray is doing.
That's the 8,400.
Yes.
okay.
We're,
Joanne?
Well, he's not
Oh, you're not done? I was
We
gonna say
have,
she has a question.
there's 3 different types of pagers out there. There's Miniver 4, 5, and 6. 6 is the newest. There's a bunch of 4s out there that they don't even fix anymore, so they break. When we have to reprogram them, anything like that, they're no longer supported, so they pretty much become garbage. So it's one of the big things for us, is trying to get everybody to be able to hear it. The Spotted Dog software works great, everything like that, but the pages are 100%. Everything else, the text messaging, Spotted Dog is hit or miss.
Joanne?
With the new state budget, they were talking about cutting the funding to the fire schools.
Yes.
How will that affect you?
That's the region schools, which are, there's a school in Danbury, there's a school in Stanford, I think there's 9 region schools around the state. The only thing that's really gonna affect us on is the amount of classes that are available for us to take. Instead of going to Danbury, we might have to go all the way to Bradley.
Do they cost more, or?
It wouldn't necessarily cost more, it's gonna just make us, we're gonna pay more out of pocket to get there, drive back and forth. A lot of our classes, they're not, you don't go for 4 hours and that's it, your whole class is done. You know, you go for a week at a time, or you go every Thursday night for 4 months. So, it'll affect us. We take our own personal vehicles up there most of the time, so it doesn't really affect our budget per se, it affects us personally.
Any other, Pete?
Just one question. Thank you, Chief, for all you guys did. On rescue, last year you asked for 5,000, this year 1,000.
Yes, last year we purchased Rescue Jacks, which is a vehicle stabilization system for motor vehicle accidents. Makes it a lot safer for the patients and the victims and the firefighters themselves for working around any kind of vehicle that's unstable or anything like that. This year we've knocked it down to just maintaining what we have, trying not to make our budget go crazy. We're trying to keep it within a reasonable number for you guys.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Any other questions for Gailersville? All right, well, thank you,
Thank you
Chief.
very much for your time, everybody.
And Northville. Page 179.
Good evening, I'm Alan Harris, I'm the fire chief of Northville, so I'm told. So,
That's why you're here.
yeah, so, I feel like I was just here not that long ago.
Anyone have any questions for the chief?
Our budget went up slightly this year, another about $2,000 increase. This is basically the amount of money that we need to stay in business. We do a tremendous amount of fundraising, selling Christmas trees and Mother's Day breakfast, and that helps offset our expenses, which are more than what we ask for the town. This year, we've done a tremendous amount of training, joint training with Waterwitch. We just recently did ice rescue training with Gaylorsville, which was a lot of, I want to say it was a lot of fun, but they got me in the water, which was interesting. We have done a lot of state classes. We've been trying to increase the caliber of our training. We had a big extrication day. We had 10 cars out behind the firehouse, and it was a very good event. And we have a lot more training scheduled for this coming year, joint with the other two departments. Does anybody have any questions regarding our request?
Any other? Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, item 49 is discussion of fire marshal budget, page 222.
Good evening, Karen Casey, Fire Marshal. Our budget is largely the same as we proposed last year. We have a couple of increases. They're both due to union contractual raises. Everything else is the same. This past year, we had 2,513 inspections to complete versus 1,138 the year prior. So it's more than double. That's due to inspection cycles by statute. Of the 2,513, we completed all but 109 of them, or 2,404 initial inspections, plus over 100 re-inspections. So we have 96% statutorily required inspections completed. Some of those remaining 4% will require search warrants. Some of them are waiting for people that winter in Florida to return, things like that. So we're trying to work with those particular owners. This upcoming year, we have 2,502 inspections to complete, 2,029 of which are residential units that we must inspect annually. Last year, we completed 155 plan reviews, many of them for large-scale building projects, such as the hospital emergency department and several other renovations up there. Neil-Trans Edition, Petco, Club 24, Goodwill, Family Dollar, and many, many changes in use and new businesses. That's a 20% increase over the 138 we did in 2013. We also did 111 investigations, which is pretty much on par with most years. We issued 67 open burn permits compared to 75 the prior year. Our fire prevention day was well attended despite the rainy weather. We're going to again do that this year. And we had a presence at Village Fair Days again, which is also normal for us. We presented about 12 public education programs to the Board of Ed, Senior Center, businesses, civic groups, and others in town. And for revenue, we brought in $50,371.85, which is an increase of $5,267.10 from the calendar year of 2013.
Questions for the fire marshal's department?
Just curious, your education side of it, how many times a year, is that a continuing, is that every 3 months, every 6 months, every 9 months?
We go continually throughout the year as classes are offered. We have to complete 90 credit hours every 3 years.
Outstanding, and well you should.
Frank?
Yeah, I just want to comment on your outreach to the school system. I think that's an excellent program that you've developed in the last few years, but I think it's wonderful that you interface with the kids at that young age, because I think it's most impressionable and they take that with them.
Still
Other-
plays the piano. Okay, she still
Larry?
plays the piano.
The new vehicle you're getting is a lease purchase, or is,
It could be a direct purchase, it could be a lease purchase. We're open to either option.
so this $8,000 is gonna be every year?
That would be for a 5-year period, that would be a direct purchase. If we did the lease option, then it would be a lower amount for, actually it would be a higher amount for a 3-year period.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other questions at this time? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 50 is computer budget line, page 282, and the supplement, page 39.
Good evening. My name's Henry Trotzman. I'm the technology director for the town. We doing 6214 first? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
costs will go down somewhat for next year, and during next year, as more pieces get implemented, our internet costs should come down even further. Main software, maintenance fees, usually go up a bit each year, so filtered for that in there. So the overall budget on 61.4 has gone up a bit, but has been brought down a little by the internet costs, which came down about $5,000.
Pete?
Thank you. Thank you, Kendrick. A quick question, we added to your staff last year. Can you kind of give us an overview of how that's been helpful to your department with the new addition of personnel?
It's been extremely helpful. It's allowed me to start working on technology projects to really push the network here forward. It had become somewhat stagnant for years in that things were moved ahead, but slowly. Just kind of kept things going. New server here and there, regular new PCs, that type of deal. Now we're putting in more fiber, moving to the Munis software. I have new servers in both the police department and the town that trying to get implemented and basically redo the entire backbone structure for servers and internal communications that most people don't see around here. Able to do that. We're looking at new permit software, which hopefully conversion starts in 3 to 4 months. Depends on their schedule when they can get us in as soon as possible on that. It's just really able to move forward on things. Right now it's a little tough because things kind of all stacked up on one thing, but we're getting through it and we're making progress. So it's just been extremely helpful overall for things.
And just kind of, just a real quick follow-up question. Last year, noted in the book on page 283, we noticed by adding the administrator that that's gonna help you, especially with the Munis software. Has that been, just if we kind of expound on that just a little bit about how it's been helpful for you with that particular item?
It's given me more time to be able to spend on the Munis as things pop up with that, and we go through the implementation of it, the setup of it. I don't get interrupted because he's taking the phone calls, he's taking care of issues, he's running out the door and dealing with issues that arise here and there, and I can just continue to go. I don't have the interruption so that I can continue to work on that.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Beth?
Thank you, Ken. I just had a question on the yearly maintenance agreement with the Munis. I know we're going live with the finance portion starting on July, but the personnel portion we're not going live with later. So is that maintenance for both components, or is it just an umbrella maintenance agreement? Is there any prorating that we get because the personnel doesn't go live till later?
No, it's just, that is, under the contract, that's the cost per year for 10 years. That was the contract signed with Munis.
Even though the other portion isn't live?
Yep.
Okay. That's it.
And that's one reason why also on the RWA software, because part of that is the payroll HR stuff. I can't drop that yet until we're fully on.
So we're double paying because the personnel isn't live?
Yeah, we have kind of both going along there until we're live on Munis and have run through a couple of iterations of it to make sure. But as long as everything goes through, which I believe it will for the next fiscal year, then the RWA costs will come down somewhat. I don't know exactly on that because they don't break it down quite the way they used to anymore for the different pieces, but the RWA software costs contain finance software, tax assessor, and tax collector software. The assessor and collector are the largest portions of that. So.
Okay. And then I noticed we're going to upgrade the projector system.
Well, it would be actually that's on my capital budget. That would actually be to put a projector system in here that would be from the ceiling.
So that's just for this room?
Yeah, it'd be a permanent thing for here, so we don't have to keep setting up something here, especially for anybody that wants to do some type of presentation for the town council or anything. It'd be here for them to use, for other training, for, you know, whatever purposes people may need a projector for in a large room.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Other questions? Walter?
Your repair and replacement of parts, is that pretty stable, or how fluid is that? Is that enough money for you?
So far it has been. This year right now is getting a little tighter for me. And a few different things here and there. Printers were the biggest thing this year.
But you're comfortable with that?
Yes, at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Walter. Other questions at this time? We'll remember, if we think of them later, we'll forward them on, and be happy to send you any other information. Thank you, Andrew. The next item is the Senior Center and Commission on Aging, and that's page 114 or page 2 of your supplemental.
Carolyn, she just barely.
Whoa.
She just got her AARP.
Is this something you said?
It's been a long day, so we got a little fire in Grove Street that we helped water with out there, so it's just been a long day, we've been going for a few hours.
Thanks, Bob.
So, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good evening, I'm Carolyn Hagan, I'm the director of the Senior Center, for those who don't know me. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Commission on Aging budget proposal for 2015-16. As the mayor said, we're on page 114, titled Commission on Aging. By New Milford Charter, we have 7 commission members, and one of the best ways to tell you about our agency is to show you our newsletter. So this is Jasmine, our program coordinator, assistant director, and I am going to be about 10-15 minutes, so here's something for you to follow along with me. We provide a full range of programs meeting the needs and interests of 3,000 New Milford seniors that we serve. Educational workshops, classes, health and wellness, social, recreational programs and activities. Then we have a human services component, support groups, benefit counseling, referrals, resources, advocacy. We provide transportation, group excursions, and we administer the elderly nutrition program. Our newsletter is mailed to 2,000 homes. That's a reduction of about 800 from last year, because thanks to Jasmine, we are on the internet and Facebook. So friend us on Facebook if you haven't already. If you turn to page 2 on the inside, you'll see our commission members, board members, committees, allied health partners, treasured volunteers we have working with us, and our personnel. We have 7 full-time employees and a substitute driver. The Connecticut Department of Transportation grant offsets our payroll, and you see that on your page 115 of the budget. It's about $40,000 we apply to payroll, and that's for some driver, sub-driver, and some secretarial support. I'd like to draw your attention to the program coordinator, assistant director's payroll line. Jasmine is a 35-hour employee. She makes $42,840. I apologize, but I did request an increase in her hours, and it did not make this publication. But I am requesting an increase of hours for Jasmine from 35 hours to 40 hours. It's not an increase in pay. There's no change in her job description, no change in her duties, no changes in her responsibilities. But with an increase in senior participation and an increase in activities that we provide, this warrants an increase in her hours. We're both salary employees, and managing our time is based on our seniors, their needs, and the services we provide. Jasmine already works over 40 hours. I'd like to compensate her for her time, and I ask that you approve this increase so that we can continue to provide the excellent service our clients are accustomed to. Jasmine's been with the center for over 2 years. She's an asset to our agency. With the increasing number of seniors we see participating in our programs, she manages that volume with expertise. Our seniors adore her. They love what she plans for them, and it's always exciting, educational, and fun. It's time that we increase her hours. And she's a great partner to me as an assistant. Increasing her hours is going to be $6,120. That's budget page 115, $6,120, and that'll increase the personnel line to $379,377. To give you an idea of what Jasmine does and what we do at the center, if you return to the center of your newsletter, page 8 and 9, this is a calendar our seniors use every day. Jasmine is responsible for this newsletter, and she manages all our other social media and public relations. She's responsible for the 4 to 10 programs and activities you see listed on the calendar, and she provides these services to about 75 to 100 seniors we see every day, and this number continues to grow. We do numbers in unduplicated numbers and then duplicated numbers. For activities and programs, we have an unduplicated participation of 1,900 seniors. But our seniors do an average of 12 events with us. So we average a duplicated number of about 23,000 events and activities. We do some off-site activities, senior suppers, some civic organizations host events over the weekends. And we also hold all of our major theme parties off-site because we can no longer hold seniors in our facility anymore. We can't hold more than 60. So we go off-site. Our big events, over 100 seniors attend. So we go to the VFW Hall, the Max, and with the culinary school at St. John's. Holding events off-site, evening events, weekends, all adds layers of logistics to Jasmine's job and her time. I stated last year there's a silver tsunami hitting our shores, and it keeps coming. Our elderly population is rapidly increasing in both numbers and as a proportion to the total population of the town. What we're finding is our baby boomers are a distinctive group, and providing the right services for our up-and-coming seniors is much different than the services we provide to our clients right now. Which brings us to another occurrence we see happening, a significant increase in our oldest elders. Back in 2010, we held our first 90-plus celebration. We only had about 40 seniors who were 90 years old and over, attending that event. This year in April, we'll hold it again. We will double that number. So this is a good thing. Volume for us is good. We continue to grow. Another increase, and this is in the budget, page 116, our elderly nutrition program. More people are coming for lunch, and this is a federally funded program. However, each municipality is asked to contribute based on the seniors who are participating. We provide over 36,000 meals a year. This is for lunch and for the Meals on Wheels program. So we need to increase this line from 11,360, and you see the increase there, 12,500. Although participation increases, under our contract for 2016, there's no increase in price per meal. We're still being charged only less than 35 cents a meal. So next, if you would turn to page 10, we have 2 staff members who are counselors. By state statute, each town is mandated to have a municipal agent. Lorraine Kelly is our municipal agent. And this is a non-funded state mandate. Lorraine and Nancy have 1,000 clients. That's an unduplicated number. And they service, the services they provide are about 4 each, so their service units are about 4,000. And if you take a look here, you see all the things that they, issues that they handle, from energy assistance to Med D. They provide certain support groups, advocacy, Triad program is under them. But they are, they only see New Milford residents. These are the taxpayers' money. This is strictly New Milford residents. Helping us keep track of everything in the office, phones, schedules, registration, is our secretary, Kim. Kim is also the chatelaine of the building. She's the keeper of keys and key fobs. We have over 35 nonprofits that use the building after hours, and so she keeps track of insurances and scheduling that. She's a 40-hour employee, but again, on budget page 116, supplemental page 2, some of her salary is supported by the transportation grant. Which brings us to transportation, page 14 on the newsletter. Bus schedules, record keeping, ridership, and dispatch are handled by our staff. We have 2 drivers, Leslie and Tom, and then we have a substitute driver, Erin. Part of Tom and Erin's payroll is supported by the budget, the transportation grant, and that's budget page 116. Our drivers transport 175 riders. That's an unduplicated number, and they provide over 10,000 rides. That's the duplication number. We take them to work, shopping, the senior center, social events they want to go to, and then non-emergency medical appointments. Our buses only travel in New Milford, and we're limited to the number of doctor's appointments we can do. That's why it's a benefit to us to have the Wheels program, the Greater New Milford Wheels program with us. They provide non-emergency medical rides only. And what's exciting is this year we secured another Connecticut Department of Transportation grant. I think we worked on this 2.5 years ago. They now have $40,000 to operate. This is for expenses, and now they've hired a program coordinator and a scheduler. They have 25 volunteer drivers, and they provide 3,000 rides a year, and that is an augmentation to our transportation. We can't do all the things we're doing here without all of our volunteers. We have about 70 volunteers between our advisory board. What's important, I'm sorry, is if this Wheels program is under the advisory board's nonprofit status. So it's not a town entity, but it augments what we do. We have 70 volunteers. They have 25 drivers. We have the advisory board. We have Triad. We have Meals on Wheels. And then computer supports, that instructors that help us. The Milford Senior Center is designated as a focal point by the Western Connecticut Area Agency on Aging due to the scope and range of services we provide. And Connecticut Department of Transportation considers us an asset to their paratransit system. I ask you, where else can you get a chauffeur, a chef, a valet, activities director, personal assistant, all under one agency? It's at the Senior Center in New Milford. To recap, the Commission on Aging is requesting 2 increases. The Elderly Nutrition Program for participation from $11,360 to $12,500, and Jasmine's hours. Changing her hours from 35 to 40 increases our payroll by $6,120, and that line item increases to $379,377. The commission request bottom line is $439,365 for 2015-16. This is a 2% increase to our taxpayers with a 10% increase in senior participation. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Pete?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for all you guys do for the seniors. I love your newsletter. I had a couple of quick questions.
You want the answers to the puzzle?
Sure. First, I see there's advertising in the newsletter. Where are the funds? Where do they go?
So this only costs us postage. It's 32 cents to mail these out to our seniors. All the advertising is done by My Senior Communication, that's the company that owns this. We are only responsible for content. So they get the advertisers, they place them in there, and we have nothing to do with it. That's why there's a disclaimer in there. We had Randy write up a disclaimer that we, we'll
So
take,
they
they
collect
can advertise, but we're not endorsing.
They collect the revenue, the this
Yes.
company,
Yes,
so that you can do this for the reduced rate?
it's free for us.
For free?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last question I have is, your transportation grant pays for the drivers for the vehicles?
Yes, part of the driver, part of
Right,
one
yeah.
driver.
Oh, awesome.
It's a 50-50 match grant, so,
The fuel,
town.
and where is that in the book, the fuel?
It's on utilities.
Do we get a break out of that?
Sure.
Great. Thank you again for all you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, with the transportation, I wanted to point out that this year, again, we had an emergency at Chestnut Grove when the sprinkler system exploded. And we were able to utilize the buses to immediately go over there along with all the emergency personnel and the drivers and offer the seniors the opportunity to either, ride down to the senior center to wait if they had to be evacuated like they were last year, in this particular, and also to bring them to the second floor down around the back, so they didn't have to go through the water and the electric was off anyway. So it's a real handy resource to have here in the community in the event of an emergency, the seniors. So. Thank you. Any other questions?
Madam Mayor,
Thanks.
if I just make, come on, Lips, you can do this. If I just make a comment, on time to time, I do frequent the senior center, and I always bump into Jasmine. I think Jasmine is a jewel. She's just bubbly, vivacious, a tremendous asset to the senior center. Definitely a right-hand man, a right-hand person to Carolyn. I have no problem with this budget. I'm all in favor of it.
Thank you, Walter.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is, this is a long one, the building department. So, we have Tom, page 193.
Hi, I'm Tom Hackett, building official. I'll try to keep it short. I've been busy, but I'll give you some figures from last year. We brought in about $435,000, about 1,390 permits. And this year, to date, up to February 28th, we brought in about 249,000, about 915 permits. In the budget, I've raised it $500 for materials and supplies because the state is changing our codes, and I need new books, so I added extra in there. And that's pretty much the budget. Any questions?
Questions for the building department?
I'm curious, of the permits, how many are new ones?
New houses? Last year, the whole entire year, we did 14. This year, up to February, we've got 24.
That's good news.
Yeah, we have one builder he built 9 this year.
Is he selling them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
It's
you,
one thing to
Frank.
build them, it's another thing to sell them.
Thank you, Frank. Paul?
Since you guys generate a lot of revenue for us, would it be helpful for the customer experience when you guys are doing inspections, if you're getting these new building code books, which are inches thick, would it be helpful to have it on some kind of electronic device to be easier to search through the codes so that our customers can get answers more quickly?
Usually, I do have the codes right on my iPhone right here, that I put them on personally. It's a little hard to read sometimes, because it's small. If we had iPads, it'd be easier. But I still think we need books, because books in the office are much easier, I think, to read. But it would help out if we have a question, we don't know the whole entire code, because there's a lot of books. Sometimes it's good to look it up.
Okay, thanks.
Plus, I've got plenty of apps for beams and electrical calculations.
We just had this conversation, Paul, it's funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was just asking, and he told me the exact same thing.
Yeah, because they generate a lot of revenue, so it'd be helpful on site, just like that.
Doesn't the code council have it all listed on the website if you log in as a member? I've done that in the past.
They give you the codes, but it's the state of Connecticut that really runs the code, the building code in the state of Connecticut. So we do use the international codes, but they're going to all new ones. They don't give you the code online. It's a for-profit business code book.
Not for free.
Yeah, nothing.
Other Other questions for building? Thanks again, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up would be the police department. And that's page 161.
Good evening.
Evening.
See some new faces, so introduce myself, Sean Boyd, Chief of Police, and for the familiar faces, again, good evening. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for support for the past several years regarding our operational costs and the police department. I'm going to, because it always becomes a popular question, is the vehicle inventory. So if I'm going to hand out a copy of our current inventory to everybody. So hopefully we have enough. I realize it's a full agenda tonight, so I'm going to just hit the highlights and certainly available for any questioning. This is our 5th budget, and you'll see I think it's consistent with our previous 4 presentations. I feel it's responsible, I feel it's accurate, I feel it's a need, and there's not a very long list of wants, but there are a couple things I'd like to address. Men and women have proven their commitment to the agency. We've really demonstrated our interest in the quality of life issues, preserving what we know. We continue to strengthen our partnership with the community. It's ever so important for our success to make our town safe for our children and families. Staff and I are committed to the betterment of the department, the ability to serve the residents, town of Milford. We continue the efforts and provide the community with the police department we all can be proud of and we can depend on. Provide not only the quality of service to be expected, the quality of service residents in the Milford deserve. The document, or the budget we have in the document, represents our continuous effort to place the most qualified people throughout the organization, as well as continue to implement progressive organizational vision for the betterment of the community. You can see our operational budgets reduced $216,131 from the previous fiscal year. Our capital shows an increase of $45,677. I'll move on as quick as I can. There are some interesting things. Our revenue is generated parking. Our revenue generated parking tickets has generated revenue of $35,426.67. 1,318 parking tickets were issued. Revenue related to permits, fingerprint fees, etc., pistol permits, precious metal licenses, raffles, etc., FOI requests have all generated a total of $41,345.09. Approximately a $76,000 revenue generation. Trying to keep it brief. Our calls for service, that's the most important thing. 2014 to date, we generated, the annual 2014, we generated 54,111 calls for service. 2013 was 35,105. A little over 19,000 additional calls for service. 5,545 traffic assignments, 4,271 motor vehicle stops, 3,999 citations issued. We are down 617 motor vehicle accidents from last year, and we made 580 arrests to include 67 DWIs. Our calls for service are up because of the ever-increasing proactive enforcement, speed enforcement, downtown checks. We're now documenting just a simple situation where we've had graffiti, tagging on some of the areas, directed patrols, calling them in to document our services. We continue to provide 3 school resource officers to maintain our school safety initiative, and plus supplemental coverage during the bus arrivals and departures from the school. Currently, to date, we've spent $2,735 on overtime to fill those capacities. Last year, we used almost $30,000. But we'll restructure manpower, restructured assignments, so it's really the reduction. You'll see some of the increases are contractual based on salary. The overall reduction in salary is based to longevity. We've hired 23 officers in the last 4.5 years, and this is a younger generation, lower pay scale, so you'll see the reduction there. There is a reduction of 2 salaries for military leave. We do not have a return date, so therefore
We removed that approximately $126,000 from outgoing salaries because we anticipate the return date to be late in the fiscal year. I can't see budgeting if we're not going to spend it. Moving forward, you'll see some of our capital increases. Primarily, again, never-ending automobile issue, some equipment related to the computers, some of the cruiser updated equipment, and you'll see what they call a Pro QA request that's specific to moving into the new millennium. Currently, the emergency medical dispatch priorities and require that you call in a family member that may be experiencing, say, a cardiac situation. You'll respond, the dispatcher will answer, you'll describe the situation. They'll enter into a manually operated flip chart. So we'll be flipping through pages of, I'm going to say, plastic wrapped forms that say, you respond, well, my father's having difficulty breathing. And they'll be asked a series of questions. They're formatted by a state mandate. They're manipulating a series of flip charts. That's 1990s technology. There's an available upgrade to our dispatch system, which is a computer-generated form. It's just a matter of just clicking on Windows. They click a button, it automatically brings them to the next window. It's fail-safe, reduces liability. It's exact cost. It's going to bring us into approximately $20,652. Additional with the software interface, it's $2,300, and so approximately for $23,000, we're going to remove ourselves from the 1990s technology to state-of-the-art, fail-safe, protect it's the interest of the community. And while I'm on the emergency dispatch, a quick note on the CMed. There has been situations where information's been transmitted via communications regarding the injury, identification, address of the individual. It resulted in a huge lawsuit against the community because it wasn't a secure transmission. So when we discussed earlier with the ambulance about the need for CMed, that's another consideration. But back to this. Not only does Pro QA bring us forward into the new millennium, it also brings forward the fail-safe of information from the dispatch. It also gives a standard protocol, so when the ambulance is en route, they have their feet on the ground when they arrive. They know what the instruction is. You can interface it with a computer. It's not the guess they hit page 3, they hit page 4, they know they hit the right windows. So they're on the ground, feet running, so it's going to increase efficiency, it's going to increase the effectiveness of the first responder, both law enforcement and the police department, or in the ambulance. We made application for medical kits defibrillators, being a heart-healthy community. Our defibrillators are out of date, beyond repair in most cases. This will give us a standardized medical response kit, oxygen, tourniquets, defibrillators, all consistent in every car. You get car 1 on a Monday, it's the exact same as a kit that's in car 3, you get it on a Tuesday, depending on how things are going. There is a concerned reduction in that. We were planning to outfit our vehicles, all our vehicles. The reduction would afford a limited to the immediate front line. So we can understand that. But again, that's where we stand on that. That's one of the biggest capitals. And then again, the cars. So I'm going to kind of cut this short as much as I can because I'm sure there's questions.
Pete?
Actually, Chief answered my main question just now. Thank you. Thank you to your men and your service, and thank you to the 2 officers that are on medicals, on military leave. Thank you for their service. Just a real quick question. I think it was a year or so ago, cameras were installed on the buses.
Yes.
How has that helped in enforcement?
There was a glitch with the Centralized Infraction Bureau and Judicial. That was ironed out in late part of the summer. We got up and running with it. We're issuing about 12 tickets weekly on that. Approximately 10 to 25%, depending on the ticket of the week, are non-enforceable. I snow on the license plate, things like that. It's been effective to date. We had to work out some accounting issues, court conviction status versus return on monies, but I think it's highly effective. It's, unfortunately, there's only one bus outfitted with it, so, but it's a Route 7 high-profile bus, and we're effective, it is. But additionally, I have to say that Lieutenant Ash, you know, he leads the forefront, he's out on the road at 7 in the morning, and we do it our school bus enforcement. So as many tickets are being issued by the Smart Bus, I'm pretty confident we were better by the guys with the boots on the street issuing the tickets from the cruisers.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dan?
Chief, in that new contract for your new hires, they can no longer, you know, what I call pension padding by adding on extra duties in the last 3 years to bump up their pensions, right?
That was a contractual agreement in the 2011 settlement with Cops 47 and the town of Milford, the new hirees. We were not, overtime was side duty and overtime was not a pensionable interest, yes.
Thank you. Ben?
I just have a question on the page 170, which is your fixed charges. I just see a lot of extra items included this year that weren't itemized last year, so I'm just curious, is it just because we've just broken them down into itemized lists now, same amount?
More so. However, we have some different post mandates. Costs have gone up. And our fixed charges' biggest issue right now is our, you know, polygraph went up from $150 to $500. Psychological evaluation increased, et cetera. Testing costs more money, so it's pretty much just the return cost. And also it includes our academy training costs, $1,500 per attendee. Classroom costs have gone between $500 and $200. To attend like a DWI enforcement training class or basic crime scene training class. Those are pretty much really what the additional costs are. We made every opportunity to budget more effectively, seeing how every time we turn around, post mandates have increased. And, you know, we're here at the last minute, you know, and it's really where we have to be in that, so.
No, it's helpful for us as well
Right.
to see exactly what's
Yeah.
there, so I appreciate you doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Frank?
Yeah, on your calls, how many of them are false alarms? Security systems?
We are actually discussing that right now. The cost of us responding to alarms, I think the national standard is about 1% is an active alarm. However, 3 things are high-profile risk of officers, motor vehicle stops, domestic violence response, and interrupting of alarms. Those are the most causative factors of death in law enforcement. Our policy requires 2 persons to respond for officer safety and the necessity. It's a national standard. We were spending, say, approximately, you have a fall, and I want to say in the remote area of Gaylorsville, 2 officers, 20 minutes each way. Okay, it's 40, 80 minutes, 20, 30 minutes there, securing the building, waiting for key holders. It's an astronomical amount. We are looking at the actual numbers, hours that are required to meet those needs, and the cost of the department, which I would like to, at some point in time, address council and looking at getting some type of return to the town for that service. Acme Alarm Company, ABC Alarm, hypothetically, they $25, $50 to $100 every time the phone rings, false alarm, and we respond, do the business, and there's no return to us. It's becoming the standard throughout the area, surrounding communities, so I think it's something we can approach in the future to get some return to the town for our costs.
The reason I asked that is 10 years ago, maybe not 10 years ago, we passed an ordinance for fire alarms.
Yes, we did.
And there's a penalty for repeated false alarms. But at that time, the police department didn't want that. They felt it wasn't needed to fine the homeowner for false alarms. And I can't remember the reasoning, but I do remember they separated it out. But I think the cost to the town is just as high for a false alarm with the fire department, or with the police department or with the fire alarm. So I would be happy to work with you on working out a reasonable amount.
I have explored a few different opportunities. There are some very similar communities that have some very productive programs that are fair and reasonable. 2 or 3 times of our service letters going out, request for repair, confirmation of repair, because some is human error and some is just the alarm's defective. But there's a point in time where the responsibility has to be placed on the homeowner.
Absolutely.
And I'm in agreement with that, and I have some, we had some, we're on some review right now. Sergeant example is a very in-depth study going at this time. So we have some model policies, I think.
It's not the money it generates, it's the idea of reduced cost. Because if you have to pay $100 for a mistake, you'll get it fixed. You'll get your alarm fixed. And that's one less call you have to make.
But there's a lot of shifts where 2 people, or 3 people are on patrol, plus a sergeant, and I'm occupying 2 officers to drive to an area, and we've been 3 times earlier in the day with a false alarm. So that's a correct, obviously increase our efficiency.
The sooner the better.
Other questions for the chief? Walter? Oh, Katie, I'm sorry. Katie was next. I had it written down. Sorry, Walter.
Just, on your vehicle list, you have 3 vehicles listed as poor, and a couple of them are quite old. Do you intend to keep them, and is it worth repairing whatever might be wrong, or whatever's making them poor?
Poor is pretty much, and here's our biggest area. You'll see a vehicle, hypothetically, 73,683 miles is poor. All right, you go into the hours on the vehicle, that thing is probably running, for 73,683 miles. If you take the hours on the motor, it's probably got 173,000. And we're getting into an area that, when we say poor, they're getting beyond repair. They're serviceable because they're not frontline vehicles.
Right.
The few that you see poor in patrol, we have, I'm going to say, de-escalated their service level. They're not frontline. We need vehicles on Route 7 for some of the officer and construction protection. Those are the vehicles we can decrease our cost by stripping out all the frontline equipment. So it's just a set of lights, a car, and the expenses we incur. You take a first-line vehicle, experience like a nail in the tire. We cannot patch that tire. We cannot plug the tire and put it back on the car because of OSHA requirements. And they call it, and there's an issue where an officer was killed because of it. It's in the middle of town with an officer thing off. But anyway, we'll take that car, we'll take that tire, because it might be brand new. We'll plug it, and we'll put it in a second-line vehicle that's sitting out there, just to defer cost. Tires used to be $48 a piece, now they're $148. So those are the things we're doing. When we say poor, high mileage, and is it cost prohibitive to keep it on the road? No. But it's getting to the point that we might want to look at that in the future. The one you see is poor, it's a parking dependent. It's a matter of taking a trip downtown. She's on foot, so it's not a problem. The Expedition was a drug asset seizure. It functions towing the boat, it functions on its limited capacity, bringing equipment to the range and back. So it's within our means.
Okay,
And there's a couple of patrol ones that we're going to have to address in the future, and that's part of our vehicle replacement.
Like you said, second line. I'm just curious, the Interceptor, the 2014 Interceptor, it's got 50,000 miles. What do you use it for? Aside from catching bad guys, but I mean, it's a lot of miles for a new car.
Just what car number? Okay, I'm sorry.
It's 14.
That's been on the road since, that's just one of the patrol vehicles. They're
Just a lot of driving around.
Yep, patrol, they're 20, it depends the officer. Some officers log 30,000 miles in the car, some 20, everything between 20 and 30,000 miles a year. We anticipate about a 90,000 mile front line use of the vehicle, and about 100 and maybe another 20 in a second line vehicle. The new generation cruisers we're experiencing, the SUVs, and the Crown Vics you see here they haven't changed the Crown Vic really designed since 1995, or 96 rather. 98 they implemented a new body style, but the drivetrain's the same. Water pumps, $50. New SUVs, $150. Not to mention the technology. Example we experienced is one of our cars had the door jar light was lit. Of course, with a huge thing, got to ground the car, and it's no longer just, it's the technology, it's expensive to repair. That's why you see these increases, but that's.
Thank you.
Thank you. Walter?
Chief, 2 things. One is a little picky. I I understand longevity pay 5. What's specialists pay?
There's contractual award for, someone who's gotten the extra training for the accident reconstruction team, the armorer, a list of them through contract. Field training officers,
Okay,
things like
okay,
that.
That's, all right. No, that's
If they've assumed a specialty through training,
Okay.
they've had a contractual award for receipt of extra money stipend. The average is between 150 to 500.
I guess the other question is your secretary, 21 hours, is that sufficient for what you need to get done?
I'm gonna say under my watch, yes. We do all our own correspondence, we answer our own phones, we're hands-on, and it keeps us in the loop. If there's just, we don't wanna miss a thing.
Thank you. Joe?
Because you have a couple of officers who are serving overseas,
Yes.
but you do expect them to come back
2 years.
in 2 years?
A year and a half.
Oh, so it's beyond a year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been gone.
Yeah, I thought you said they were coming back again this year, I'd say.
No, I wouldn't expect them this year, but I hate to rule out anything, you know. I don't anticipate them being back in this fiscal year. So, the new one.
Larry?
Picking up on what Katie was talking about, the repairs, service and repairs up 70% this year. You expect that to keep increasing year after year?
No, we have gone from the generation of the 1990s technology that we see were for Crown Victorias. That's a longer sedan-looking vehicle. We are now into the generation of the SUV, all-wheel drive. That should plateau because we are reaching the continual service level of the SUV cost away from the Crown Vic. So I don't see it getting, hitting that number again next year, no. We'll be probably consistent with cost for repairs next year.
Now.
Yes.
And you were talking before about, I think you called it non-functioning, obsolete, outdated medical kits and defibs. And you said, if I understood you, that all of your patrol cars on the road are equipped.
No, that's our goal.
You don't have, now, the reason I'm asking is that I know for a fact that for most emergencies, medical emergencies, officers are on scene before EMS.
Yes.
I've seen it time after time after
Yes.
time. And if the officer needs a defibrillator and doesn't have one, or doesn't have one that works, that could mean the difference between life and death.
Yes, exactly.
And are you saying that some of your patrol cars do not have defibrillators?
We started a few years ago with that principle, but they slowly depreciated and deteriorated, just broken. I mean, they do wear out, they have a life expectancy. We try to coordinate with battery replacement with some of our units are obsolete. We're looking at probably a $28,000 cost to upgrade all our AEDs. We do have a couple limited, they're not dependable. It's concerning, and that's why we're approaching this figure of the $53,000 and then it will reduce to get that, so we're 100% uniformity across the board, every car, available to every officer.
Well, that should be a major concern. I mean, we're talking life and death here, literally.
Yes.
I mean, we are.
Very good, yes. We've gone from, investing $15,000 for some baseline, what they call a quick clot tourniquet kit for, serious injury that, affect arterial bleeding. The AEDs have slowly been pulled offline because of basically, just they're beyond their life expectancy. We haven't, they pretty much hit their life expectancy and just drop right off serviceability. It'll be perfect one day and then get to the point where you can't repair it the next. Complete battery failure, circuit board failure, anything.
So proposed to me that when I called them about where to make adjustments, that they would put them in all their frontline vehicles and move them around and then try to find other monies and grants to back up the other, to do the other backup vehicles.
So, are we gonna have defibs in all the patrol cars or not?
That's the goal with the budgetary plan of the original.
You can do it within this budget.
I can make it work, yes. Yep. And there is, the government is kind of loosening the purse strings, with grants coming up, and, through just informal conversation with the Connecticut Chiefs Association, that is one of the fundings, because the Narcan, heroin overdoses has met some government funding, the training related to that has met government funding, and everybody's experienced the same thing we are. We all got in the AED, generation, about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and they got between a 7 and 10 year lifespan, but they get banged around in the car. They get banged around at the scene, so everybody's experiencing this failure, and it's kind of the generation we're all talking about, I guess we're budgeting for AEDs, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Joanne?
How much is the cost for one of your packets? Because everything's sterile in there, correct? And
As sterile as it can be. I'm gonna have to defer to Heather Trevor real quick. What were we for independent packet for the AED?
I think the AED was, about $2,500 per unit. We were looking to purchase 17 units initially in the budget, and I think it was an additional about $1,000 to redo all our med kits. Our med kits that we have in the vehicles they came in when I came in. And we've been recycling the same med kits, over the period of time.
We worked cooperatively with the ambulance for years about upgrading oxygen systems, upgrading, hospitals used to be great about giving us bandages and things like that. Well, that's all kind of, no more. So, we're even fine.
What can we tell you about that?
I can say things, everybody has a budget issue, and years ago, you used to go in and just restock your kit and go back out to the call. But now, nasal cannula, all that stuff is extra money, and we have met it through our limited approach on the budget, but again, we have, and I was talking to the command staff the other day, we have basically had I'm gonna say, a tidal wave of both technological and equipment improvement over the years. We are into this huge river flow of improvement, and this is just one more, I'm gonna say, artery of I'm gonna say, current that we need to allow into the flow.
So so any police officer out on the road will have access to an AED?
I want to be able to have that, so they open the trunk, and they pull out a blue kit, throw it over their shoulder, and get to no matter if they're in car 1, 2, 3, or 4,
Right.
unzip it, and in packet number 1 is the CPR mask, pocket number 2 is nasal cannula, oxygen, tourniquet, whatever. All systematic, all consistent in its design, so there is no variable, and the AED is right there with it.
Thank you.
Walter?
Yeah, just to follow up, you mentioned in the med packs they carry a Narcan now?
No.
No? Okay.
No. We are not qualified by state statute at our training level to carry the Narcan. We're exploring the ability, and we're looking into it, but we're not required by state statute to carry it pursuant to our training level. But we have sent a paramedic that's within the PD into the training, but I was trainer. So again, reducing training costs by training one to train each of our officers at a roll call, and we're exploring that. That's not a.
And is that the nasal Narcan?
Yes.
Nasal.
More questions? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you for your support.
Next up is Camden Lake Authority. Page 249, and your supplement, page 28.
Michelle.
Hi, good evening. I'm Phyllis Scher, Chairman of the Camden Lake Authority. Joe Wodrowski is one of your delegates. Larry Marsicano, familiar to you, I'm sure, she's the Executive Director of the Camden Lake Authority for many years. This year, we took a new approach in how we report our budget. I
tried over the course of the year to examine every detail I could in terms of our expenses to get a better handle on what was a budget based on actual costs, because I felt through the audit that we were not really apprising the towns of what it costs to run the day-to-day operations of the Lake Authority. In the process of reviewing it, we put in all the line items and the rationale. We also determined that there were several items that we were underestimating based on a review of several years, that the actual costs of these items were higher. And part of it is because it's unanticipated expenses, which can be traced back to utilities, phone, fuel. We can guesstimate at the beginning of the year what we think those costs might be, but I think that's the wrong way to do it. I think what we need to do is look at what our actual costs have been and put that down when we do our budget projections. The Candlewood Lake Authority has some very challenging and interesting programs coming up in the coming year. We're looking to develop solutions that will address the long-term concerns that have pressed the lake in terms of Eurasian water milfoil. We're very happy to basically say that this year we are looking to get the sterile grass carp in Candlewood Lake. We've been successful in receiving a $50,000 grant from the DEP, which we are going to support with matching in-kind services. We expect to see a significant change for the better in relation to milfoil in the lake, and should see some really good control within 2 years. 2 to 4 is what they say. You will see a change within the first year, but we don't want to promise too much and disappoint people if they don't get what they're looking for. We have worked very closely with the DEP in this in terms of a management plan so that environmental balance is maintained within the lake, that we are not solving one problem by creating another. And we are planning to have, as part of this whole program, public education meetings so that the general public at large understands what we're doing and gets behind this. We would be more than happy to come as well to any selectmen's meeting or town meeting to further this, or even do a talk at the New Milford Library, whatever you think is beneficial. Another program that we're looking to start is to engage more of the students in the town in a summer program. We've spoken briefly with Park and Rec about doing something where we can get a group of kids out on the lake on a weekday in the summer and take them around with different criteria. The lake is a wonderful opportunity to be an outdoor classroom, and there's a lifelong benefit of learning that these kids can get hands-on. So you don't have to have a big fancy waterfront home, but what kid wouldn't enjoy, looking at what's in the lake and learning about it and learning to be a little bit better steward for nature. And so this is something that we're looking to develop as well. The other concern we have is the increasing prevalence of blue-green algae, and part of that is brought on through climate change. We're having longer, warmer summers, so that by August, the oxygen level in the water is affected. Larry is our scientist, and he can better address the actual mitigating factors. But the concern is recent data suggests and points to the fact that the toxic levels of blue-green algae can affect nerve damage and have issues that might cause the closing of town beaches, which is something that we're looking to try to prevent if we can find some prudent ways to basically alert the towns when the water levels are suspect, and also find some way to mitigate the effect of blue-green algae. And some of that we're still looking into, because there are some new technologies coming out that might help us in that vein. Another issue that is really barking at our door is the zebra mussel issue. Lilanona and Zor are heavily infested with them. We have been successful so far in keeping them out of Candlewood Lake, and part of that I'd like to compliment the cooperation of First Light by recognizing that pumping up from the Housatonic puts the larval stage of the zebra mussels right into Candlewood Lake. So they have restricted their pumping up when the water reaches above 50, I think it was 51 degrees, because that's when they start spawning. And if they kept pumping up, they would just be filling Candlewood Lake up with a continual source of zebra mussel veligers. We are looking at a scientific approach to kill veligers so that they get too drunk and sick to settle out, and that's using a CO2 diffusion before they get into Candlewood Lake. And this is really kind of a groundbreaking research. The DEP is funding some of that so that we can see if this will have some really strong bearing on protecting Candlewood Lake, not only for now, but in the future. And it's something that First Light has also embraced, and they're starting to plan to use it actually in their piping systems as well. So we will let you know further about that. In our budget issue this year, we have had some increases. Two of them are non-recurring extraordinary expenses. One of them is related to the radios. It's been a statewide mandate that we have to change our radios. They've gone to a narrow bandwidth. I believe it's affected the police department, which has already done their changeover last year. I had the unintended opportunity to ride in an ambulance with my husband a couple of weeks ago, and I questioned the ambulance drivers about the radio, and basically they said the same thing. They've all changed over. Our Marine Patrol would have to do the same thing as well. So this would be a one-time expense. It's about, the minimum it would cost us is about $19,000. It's about $5,000 a radio. We have tried to get with the DEP to get their lower cost purchasing power. I've even seen if there's an open box issue available to get discounted radios. So I was a purchasing agent and vice president of an engineering company for 36 years, so I don't like to spend money that I don't have to spend. I always felt if you can save $1, it's $2 you don't have to earn. So that's one issue. The other thing is, in going through our budget to see why we were running over each year, we determined that we had extra costs that we had not booked, which is basically the utilities, the fuel, the phone costs. So we tried to put those in and make it more appropriate. Where we tried to save, we reduced the deductibles, or we increased the deductibles on our health insurance because that was something we had some leverage with. Our biggest problem right now is the funding that we expect as a shortfall that came out of the blue to us after we submitted our budget to you. Because First Light has gone around to the towns and indicated that the historic funding that we expect from them, they are no longer going to contribute. We have always had a good partnership with the utility company in that whatever the towns have provided in terms of an appropriation has been matched by the utilities. And last year, they paid us $50,000 as a contribution. This year, they have decided they're only going to pay $10,000. So, I'd like to pass this around. It's basically an open letter to the municipalities showing my concern for this and asking for your support, and hoping that maybe we can all get behind this and reopen the discussion with First Light, and perhaps they will reconsider their approach on the funding aspect of this. In 2011, they had taken a similar approach, but the towns, I say in a show of support, got together and even at the HEVCO meeting, discussed it and went back to First Light and felt that the approach was inappropriate. A lot of the work that the CLA does supports and helps First Light meet the requirements of their FERC license. So I really think what we should be doing is looking to work hand in hand together to provide better protection for Candlewood Lake, better recreational experiences for all the users of the lake, and better public safety. So,
Are there questions at this time, Lisa? Oh, Beth.
Yeah, first off, I guess I'll start with this First Light. Did they give reasoning behind the decision?
I think it's about 5 years ago when John Chu came in from, I think he's Texas, but he's their new head of the Northeast area. His perception of the relationship between the Candlewood Lake Authority and First Light was that we were a charity. He did not see us as a working partner or an agency that he worked with. We tried to explain to him we're really not a charity, we're an agency of the town. We represent the town, and our function really is to protect the recreational, environmental, and public safety component and the shoreline for the towns and the interests of the towns. They backed off after that. I did tell them if they wanted, we would be happy to write them a letter thanking them for their contribution if they needed it on a tax reporting basis, but that historically the utility has always shared equally in the cost. So I think that's my best explanation that I can give them.
Okay. And then have you notified DEP in case if you need to reduce your patrols, will they have to increase their patrols?
No, I did notify the DEP. That's kind of a common misconception because there was some commentary going on in the past years that if we couldn't afford the patrol, the DEP would pick up the slack. And I wrote to both Colonel Overtur and the other personnel at the DEP to get some kind of a ruling or guidance on that. If the CLA was unable to fund the patrol, the DEP would turn to the towns and to their police departments to provide some patrol coverage. And I would think that probably your costs would be higher than the patrol coverage that we can provide for you. I think the pay scale that our patrol officers are paid is much less. They act not only as patrol officers, but goodwill ambassadors for many years. You know, I guess they know the lake backwards and forwards. They get lost people where they need to go. They tow boats when they need to go. They act as educational advisors. It's not just out there writing tickets. And I think that their presence acts as a positive deterrent preventing accidents.
No, I guess my confusion
Yeah, so,
comes
no,
because
we
they
had
do
looked into
patrol
that.
as well.
Because
There was actually a question that the analogy was raised with Squat's Pond. You know, they got more coverage at Squat's Pond several years back when issues were raised there, and we said it's kind of the model everyone's looking at. You know, maybe we kind of push DEP into doing that, and what they said is Squat's Pond, they own that land, they are responsible.
So because it's a town.
And
Right,
on
state
Candlewood,
launch.
it's different.
Right,
Yeah,
state
they actually
But then
consider
the Candlewood Lake has
Candlewood
3 state launches as well.
two.
Two. But the perimeter of Candlewood Lake is really the 5 towns' responsibility. So, and the other 2 lakes, Thor and Willenona, I believe, use their police force to patrol their lake.
Well, known as patrolled by Brookfield.
Brookfield.
Brookfield, right.
For about
There has-
$20,000 a year from us.
There has been an incidence where the DEP has brought in additional patrol, but they bill the towns at their rate for whatever additional patrol, so there's unfortunately no free ride.
Okay, I was
Right.
curious on that one. And then secondly, I just want to express my appreciation for you doing this budget, something we've asked for a long time, and it's very useful in seeing where the costs are actually being incurred. It's a little concerning that they were so out of whack, but I do appreciate that now we will have a baseline to move forward with.
Right, and I'm going to look at it more meticulously every year because I like to understand every detail. You'll get to know me better as time goes on, but I just feel you can't run something unless you understand it.
Absolutely. And then my final question is here, there's a huge increase to replace equipment, and it says C schedule. Do you have that schedule available?
I do. We have, you guys didn't get that, so I'll leave some copies of that. It was really the same schedule we left you last year. But I'll leave some copies, that way you'll have it,
And I can also supplement that schedule because I asked for more information on that, because Pat will learn. I
I wanted to know exactly what we had to replace. I wanted to know what engine model and what horsepower it was and how old it was, so that I'm trying to track. We have one boat that's from 1992, a Steigercraft. We have engines that are 20 years old. If something goes down, what we're trying to find is two engines that are similar, so that you can swap between two boats, not four boats that each have a different engine. So that we want to maintain some functionality at all times. So.
Thank you. And if you don't have the schedule, just email it to Tammy. She's
I have it right here,
great.
yeah, I'll leave it with Karen.
That's awesome, thanks.
Okay, is there anything else?
Katie? Yeah, and thanks for everything you do on the lake. It's a beautiful place and we love people that way. I just have a couple of questions on the expenses. Your office is still at 30 Bridge Street, right?
Yes.
Okay, and your utility cost, I realize you're bringing it up to what it really is, $2,690?
Right.
That's a lot of utility. How big is this office?
It's, what?
Is it heated by electric heat?
Yep, there's electric heat.
We have been
Right on
Are you
Bridge
there
Street.
12 months of the year?
Yep, we have 12 months a year.
Like 8 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours a day? That's just a tremendous amount of utility cost.
What,
I think
how much is it?
$2,690.
For utilities, I don't think that's that much for a year.
Okay, I'll be different on that, but.
No, I mean,
my
my
next question
home
is, we
electric
have,
bill is higher than that.
oh, mine's not, so that's why I guess it's.
Okay,
The
I'm
internet
sorry.
in Sherman you have as $250. Are we reimbursed for that? I mean, because we're paying for internet in New Milford, why are we paying for Sherman also?
Well, Sherman is our operational facility. So, for instance, our operational people who put out the buoys, maintain the boats,
Right.
they work there.
But we
So-
don't pay for any facility there.
There is a facility there.
Which is, we don't pay for.
Right.
It belongs to, it belongs, right,
Exactly.
right.
But why are we paying for the internet access there? Because we're already paying for internet access in Milford.
Because the town of
Sherman
doesn't provide internet access for us. It's really one of the old abandoned Allen Camp buildings that we maintain. So we maintain the utility there, we maintain the internet there, we maintain a
Right,
low budget
so whose
phone.
job is it to ask other towns, I mean, there are 5 towns who are around the lake, why is it phoned to Milford? That's my
It's
question.
not.
No,
Listen,
no,
you all have the
share.
same budget. Everything, you guys share the budget,
So I
so.
guess if Sherman's paying $250 and New Milford's paying $250 for Sherman, is Sherman also paying $1,200 for New Milford?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Yeah, you see the line,
So
everyone
sorry,
sees,
wait,
everyone
right,
sees
but
the
okay.
same lines.
Oh, okay, that's fine. And your admin, is that person employed 12 months of the year?
She is, but she's not full-time,
She works basically, what, 2.5 days a week?
something like that, yeah.
But she's there
Larry
12
works
months, right?
probably about 80 hours a week because he sends me emails at 5 in the morning and 4 in the morning, so.
Okay, thank you very much. That's good. That's what I want to know. Thanks.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for, I guess, doing your work on Candlewood Lake. I had a question concerning the revenues.
Mhm.
You have for donations, appeals, votes, and foundations, your actual budget for 2013, 2014 is $50,144. And then your proposed budget for this particular line is $30,000. Why is it less, about $20,000?
I believe that, was that when we had the boat, we had a donated boat, and we sold the boat, and that boat added, I think it was about $10,000 to our revenue. We don't have something like that this year, right, so. And, we don't wanna overstate what we project as donated revenues because it is not a sure thing. So what we try to do is an average and put down what we feel is a realistic number. We're trying to get us out of trouble financially and put things on an even keel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Where was that boat item that we were discussing? Wasn't it a boat that you were looking for to replace? And I spoke to somebody yesterday.
Well,
I got you in half a map.
for the radios, correct?
Was it,
The half a match was for the radios.
is it for the radio?
Yes.
Because remember, I asked you to go ask.
Yes, and I did.
We did.
And I know know that you guys met following that, so I'd like to talk to you
I
about that.
met yesterday, so I
Yes,
think I got
yes.
it. But where would that be reflected in the budget?
We didn't, that was not in this budget, that was discussed,
Well, it
in a
is-
week.
It
But-
is in the budget in terms of $20,000 for the
Right.
radio purchase.
Right.
And
Right.
it's under public safety, I believe it is,
So
as a
we would be able
capital
to
equipment.
address that later if we get the rest of this?
Yes.
Sure,
Okay.
sure, and we can use a little help from you if you need, on that, getting that on part of that. So we have the match, we just need the grant,
Well, I'm working on it, I got the form already.
no, we did the form, so we can take care of all that too.
Okay.
We've already started that process.
All right,
Yeah, yeah.
good. Other questions? So we'll recess until tomorrow night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Same back here.